Alright guys, MTech Guy here, and today we're going to take a look at changing out the cabin filter on the little 1 Series, the E87 130i. Now this video will apply to any 1 Series from this generation, the E87. Now the cabin filter, often referred to as a pollen filter, often gets overlooked by many owners, and if you do leave it in there for a long period of time without changing them out, what can happen is it can start building up with dust and dirt and bugs, things like that, and it will restrict the airflow to your cabin. This can have a negative effect on your blower motor, it can put more strain on it, and it can also start to make your cabin smell, which nobody wants. Now BMW recommend that you change this filter out every 80,000 kilometers. Now I reckon that service interval is way too stretched out. I like to get mine done every 12 months. And what I also like to do is give all that air conditioning ducting a good clean out, because what can happen over a long period of time, you can start getting mold and mildew building up over it over many years, and it'll really start to stink, and it's almost impossible to clean it out once it starts, unless you start tearing your whole center console and dash apart and pulling the whole lot out, and nobody wants to go to that length. So it's a good idea just to keep in front with it, keep it nice and clean and sanitized. And the way I do that, I'll be using a spray. So while I've got the old filter out of there before we refit the new one, we'll give it a good sanitize, and then that should see us good for the next 12 months. Alright, so let's take a look at what we're going to need to get the job done. Alright, so of course we've got the filter itself. Now there's two different types of filter you can get. You can either get a regular paper filter, or you can get one with what they call carbon activated. So this means that it's got like a charcoal impregnation in it, and what that'll do is that'll really help get rid of them nasty smells coming into the cabin. Now you can go for a genuine BMW branded one, but they are quite expensive, but there's many alternatives out there. I like to go for the Micron Air brand. As far as I'm aware, that's the OEM manufacturer, so it's a good fit, good quality. I like to sit with that, and it's not a bad price. And then, like I say, we're going to give the air conditioning ducting a good clean. We've got the Valvoline air conditioning odor eliminator here, so that's like an aerosol that we're going to use through the ducting, and that'll give it a good clean. It'll freshen it all up, and it'll stop that mold and mildew growth. Alright, so let's take a look under the bonnet and what steps are required to get the job done. Okay, so taking a look under the bonnet here, the cabin filter lives under this plastic cover here. Now this is held down by 6 bolts, and they take an 8mm socket, so the only tool you're going to need for the job is a decent 8mm socket. And then once we get that removed, lift it off, and that'll reveal the cabin filter on the underside. Now the 6 bolts live one there, 2 over here, and 2 there, so we'll remove them now. And now with the 6 screws removed, we can just lift that up and out. Easy as that. And if we take a look under here, you can see this one's all full of dirt and bits and pieces. Very dusty in there, look at that. So definitely time to chuck in a replacement. So to remove the old dirty filter out of the lid, it's just held in by 3 clips here, and it's just a case of pulling them tabs back, lifting it up and out. Like that. Now if we take a look at the tray that sits underneath the cabin filter there, under the cabin filter housing, you can see it's all dirty and mucky, so what I like to do is give that a good spray and wipe before I go any further, and then when we put the new filter in there, it's got a nice clean surface, and it's not just going to get rammed with all that dirt that's already sitting there. It's just something worth doing while we're at it. Okay, so I've got my multi-purpose cleaner here, so we'll give that a bit of a squirt. There we go. And while we're at it, I think we'll do the underside of the lid also. There we go, that's much better. So now we've got a nice clean filter housing for our new cabin air filter. So next up, before we do fit the new filter, we're going to discharge our odour eliminator through the ducting. So that's the opening here, and same on the other side. So what we're going to do is start the engine, we're going to turn the air conditioning on and set it to cold, fan speed highest, and then we're going to administer half of this can, sharing it between the two the two ducts. Once we've discharged half of it, we're going to let it cycle for 2 minutes, and then next up we're going to turn the air conditioning off and set the heater to high, and then we're going to discharge the second half of the can, again sharing it between the two ducts there, and then we'll let that cycle for 2 minutes, and then that's that done. Alright, so we'll start off by turning the engine on. There we go. Then next up, air conditioning on, and we're going to set it to the coldest setting, both sides, and we want to make sure that it's not on recirculate, so make sure that these are off, because we want to be drawing the fresh air from outside and then bringing that in through the vents rather than just recirculating what's in the cab. And we'll also get that fan speed on the highest setting. Okay, so now we're ready to spray the product down the ducts, so we'll give it a good shake. Right, so I'd say that's about half of the can now, so we'll let that cycle for 2 minutes, and then we'll turn the AC off and put the heater on and discharge the rest of it. Okay, so now it's been a couple of minutes, we'll turn the air conditioning off and we'll turn the fan temperature to the highest setting. Then we'll discharge the rest of the can. And now that the can's empty, we'll just let that cycle for another 2 minutes before we shut it off. Right, so now that we've got that lot cleaned out, it's ready to fit the new cabin air filter into position. So it should have some indication on there as to which way the flow is. You'll see there's 2 arrows there and it says airflow. Now you want the arrows facing into the lid, because obviously when that's flipped round the other way, the airflow is going to come in like that, go up through the filter and then into the ducting like that. So you want the arrows facing up into the lid. So if we look at this, we'll flip that over and we're going to install it like this. So you see on the back side it has 2 tangs, one there on the other end. So we need to position it in, hook that into position. I'll try and do this one-handed while I'm holding the camera. And then as we push it down, we just need to locate the 3 clips along the front edge there. There we go, so you can see that's seated nice and secure, nice and tight now. So next up, flip it over and we can position that back on the car, just like that. Now we can reinstall the 6 bolts. There we go. Done. So now that we've got the new cabin filter fitted, it's time to reset the service indicator on the dash for the cabin filter. So to do that, we're going to turn on the ignition but not start the engine. Next up, press and hold the trip reset button. And you'll see it's come up with the icon for brake fluid there. Now we're going to scroll through that until we see the one for the cabin filter. So to do that, we're going to use this tab on the indicator stalk. So we're just going to scroll through like this. There's the one for the cabin filter. So next up we're going to press once the BC button on the end of the indicator stalk. And when you say reset, press and hold that BC button down. And there you go, that's reset it. Alright guys, so there we have it, that's that job sorted, and it's a super easy DIY as you can see. There's no need to take it to a garage or a dealer to pay for that. You can get it done with minimal tools and minimal expense. Now just one other thing to think about, it is worth just dropping the windows down and letting the cabin vent out a bit before you go for a drive in the car, just because we've been spraying that product through the vents. Although it'll smell super clean and nice inside, it can be a little bit overwhelming, so drop the windows and let that cabin air off a little bit. Now if you found the video interesting or useful, don't forget to give it a like, and make sure you go and check out the rest of my YouTube channel for more BMW DIY videos. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.